Hi everybody, this is Coach McCreary from Baseball by the Yard. Today's video is a much longer one and is specifically for catchers or anybody who works with catchers. If you have been watching Major League Baseball, you probably realize that there were some new rules instituted this year involving collisions at home plate. And so that's what this instructional video is going to be about. Now, I thought about putting it into a much larger instructional video for catchers and combining it with a lot of other stuff and then charging money for it. But I figured, you know what, this topic is too important to do that. So I want to make this available to everybody because I think the consequences of not knowing this information and not preparing for collisions at home plate can sometimes be devastating, and I don't want that to happen. I want kids to be in a safe position on the field, particularly the catchers who run the risk of some serious injuries if they're not doing things right. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about three areas here, actually four. I'm going to talk about the mindset that all catchers should have involving any type of play at home plate, whether there's a collision or not. I'm going to talk about the mechanics of a basic tag play where there is really no collision. I'm going to talk about some additional mechanics that a catcher has to prepare for and do should there be a collision at home plate. And then I'll finish up with some aftermath things, because there's some things that catchers will do. They'll do everything right prior, they're safe, the situation ends, and then in the immediate follow up after a few seconds, sometimes they get themselves in trouble after that. So I'll talk about some aftermath things as well. So when I come back, we'll talk about the mindset and then move on from there. Okay, when it comes to the mindset, catchers first have to assume that the runner is going to collide into them. Now, I don't care what the rules say. A runner, of course, is going to be thrown out of the game, particularly the lower levels. There's really a no-tolerance policy when it comes to these types of things at the lower levels. However, catchers sometimes can get themselves into a false sense of security if they assume the runner is going to slide. Don't assume. You have to assume that the runner is going to collide into you, and you have to take the steps to prepare for that. And if you do, and the runner slides, you're good to go. Go team. If the runner does try to collide into you, you're not surprised, you're ready for it, you've taken the steps, and that is going to lead to a much better, a much safer situation for every catcher, but it starts with assuming the runner is going to collide into you. Okay, the second mindset issue involves setting your ego aside temporarily. Now, catchers are generally tough individuals. You have to be to take the pounding they take on a daily basis with foul balls and all types of things and hurt knees and all that stuff. It takes a special person. However, sometimes that ego can get in the way when it comes to plays at home plate. I have heard young catchers say about collisions, well, I'm going to stand there and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to let that runner know he's not going to be able to knock me down, and I'm going to put my shoulder into him, and no way I'm going to let him knock me over, and I'll be fine. That's a very dangerous attitude to take. You have to understand the simple physics of it. I don't care how big the catcher is, I don't care how big the runner is. The runner is going to win that collision almost every single time. And it's simple physics. The runner is flying around third base. He is running full speed at a target that is standing still. If I am standing still and anybody of virtually any size comes flying in, drops their shoulder, and levels me, I'm the one who's going to get hurt. When you watch these types of collisions on TV, very rarely is the runner ever seriously injured. Oftentimes the runner nails the catcher, gets back up, high fives people, and goes back to the dugout, and the catcher is the one laying there. It doesn't matter how big the runner was, it doesn't matter how big the catcher is. So you got to leave your ego aside, and you basically say, I am never going to take that runner on, because if I do, I'm going to lose. And I have to prepare myself for that possibility and make sure I put myself in a position to be able to take that hit and not get injured. And that involves leaving your ego out of it. The last thing is pretty basic. It's basically understanding that your catcher's protection here, your shin guards, your chest protector, especially your mask, are your friends here. And I want to focus a little more attention right now on your mask. Some catchers get in the very bad habit of any time a ball is put into play, they take their mask off. Okay, now that's okay if I'm fielding bunts. If it's okay if there's a pop-up in the infield and I have to turn my back and lose my mask. Those are proper times to take the mask off. But if there's runners on base and there's a base hit and there's a chance that a ball might be coming home and there might be a plate home plate, the last thing I want to do is expose my face to that runner. So get in that habit of leaving your mask on. Only take it off when you absolutely have to. Okay, now that we've got the mindset out of the way, let's talk about some of the mechanics here of preparing for any play at home plate, whether it's a tag or a collision. Now, because we are assuming that the runner is going to collide into us, and we can't assume that he's going to slide, everything we do prior to actually tagging him is going to be the same, whether it's a tag play or a collision, because we are preparing for both. And we're just going to basically wait and see what the runner actually does. Okay, so the first few mechanics involve any play at home plate. The first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that runner sees that there is an area of home plate that he can slide into. Okay, I'm giving him a lane, so to speak. So for our purposes here, I've turned home plate, and the camera angle is going to be the angle at which the runner is coming. Okay, so the viewer is basically the runner in this particular play here. So if I am a catcher and there is some setting up for a plate home plate, I want to put my feet in front of home plate and give that guy a lane so that when he rounds third base, the first thing he sees is that he has an area of home plate to get to. If I make the mistake and I put my feet on this area here of home plate, he comes around third base, he does not see an area to slide into. That's when he's more likely to say, I don't have any other choice. I got to ram into the catcher. That's not what we want him to think. We want him to see the lane and think slide. Okay? And I do that by positioning myself at the start in front of home plate, giving him an area to slide into. So give him that lane. It'll automatically change his thinking. Okay, the second big tip when it comes to footwork, and this is a really big one for the safety of all catchers. When I do give that guy a lane and I position my feet in front of home plate, my left foot, of course, is closer to the runner. And it's also the first leg that if he gets there before I move my feet around, this is the leg he's going to hit first. So I have to prepare myself for that possibility. Very important thing is, for all catchers, you have to point your toes and your knee at the runner. So if the runner's coming from this angle, I point my toes and my knee at the runner. If the runner is coming from the angle of the camera, I point my toes and my knee where the runner is, and I set up like this. The reason why is if the runner were to collide with this leg, either by sliding or diving or whatever, if he collides with this leg, if my leg, knees, and my toes are pointed at him, and he hits my knee or below my knee, my leg is going to give often that way, and I fall on top of him. If he hits me above the knee, it may hyperextend my knee, and I may fall back, which is not going to tickle, but that is usually less of an injury than if I had the side of my knee pointed at the runner. If the runner hits the side of my knee, then bye-bye knee. That's where I may need knee surgery. I may get my knee blown out on that particular play. So really important for all catchers, you have to point your toes and your knee at the runner. It automatically puts you in a safer position should there be contact. Okay, the third concept when it comes to mechanics of any play at home plate really is not so much the order that it's in. It's just another concept that in general, okay, is going to apply to any play. In general, you as a catcher always want to do your best to try to stay lower than the runner. Now think of a football player at this point. Think of a wide receiver who goes out and then cuts across the middle to catch a throw. If that quarterback throws him a high pass and he's got to go up for this, a defensive back is going to knock him into tomorrow, because as he's reaching up, that defensive back can come underneath and nail him. And we've seen that on TV lots of times. That's why wide receivers don't generally like having to go across the middle of the field because of that reason. Well, the same principle applies to catchers. If the runner's coming home and I'm waiting for the throw and I catch and I stay tall and that runner coming full speed gets lower than me, he's going to knock me into tomorrow. So catchers always want to make sure they do the best that they can to get down as low as they can in this process. Get lower than the runner so that he cannot lower his shoulder and ram into you. If you stay lower than he is, you limit the damage that he's able to do. And as we'll see, you're going to be able to deflect a lot of that energy that he's bringing into the play. Okay, the next concept here when it comes to the mechanics of a tag is to do the best you can to use two hands on the tag. It's not always possible. If there's a bad throw and that guy's doing a wraparound slide or hook slide, I may have to dive across with one arm and do that. But under conditions where he's sliding close to me and I have the time, I want to catch the ball, put my bare hand around the ball, and tag the guy with the back of my glove. If I tag the runner with my hands in this position here, then he can slide in and hit my wrist, hit my hand, and so forth. So I want to tag him with the back of my glove with two hands. Not only am I going to be less likely to drop the ball, but it's going to create a safer situation for my hand, for my wrists, and I'm using the glove to protect myself on the tag. Okay, the next step here when it comes to tag plays at home plate involves what we do after we catch the ball to actually step around to tag the guy. So I talked about pointing my toes and my knee and giving that guy a running lane and so forth. Well, now the ball has arrived and I've caught the ball and the runner is in the process of sliding over here, and what can I now do? Well, if I have the time, what I want to try to do is now, since I have the ball, is now try to block the plate. So he's in the process of sliding, I catch the ball. What I want to try to do is then take my left foot, step back to try to block that lane that he's now sliding into, drop my right knee so that I can tag the guy and block home plate with my glove, okay? Now, the step after that is don't stay down in that position, okay? The more you stay there, the more contact you can make with the runner. So a lot of times catchers will come down, they'll make the tag, and then they'll come up because there may be other runners on base. In fact, if there's a guy hit a base hit and here's the guy scoring, well, the guy who hit the base hit, it may be trying to move up to different bases here. So you're going to step back, put that right knee down, block that lane, make the tag, two hands with the back of your glove, make the tag, and come up and be ready to throw to another base to cut down any other runners that might be out there. Okay, folks, so let's now talk about collisions. So up until now, when we've done the mechanics here of giving the guy the lane, pointing your toe and your knee, all those things involving the steps I take prior to actually going down to make contact to tag the runner is exactly the same. Because again, if I stay low, putting myself in a position where I'm going to be safer. So now let's talk about the actual collision. What does the catcher do when that runner really does come in and try to nail the guy instead of sliding? Okay, so everything up till now is the same. I've stepped back, I've made the catch, I got my two hands on the ball, I'm staying lower than the runner. When I'm in that position, the catcher will often realize this guy's coming after me. He's not going to slide. You get that realization based on the body language of the runner, and you can see he's not sliding. He's lowering his shoulder, and he's coming after me. The first step that the catcher should do when he recognizes this is going to be a collision is he wants to get off the balls of his feet. Now, there is no other time in baseball where a coach is going to say, get on your heels. Usually, in fact, every time coaches are going to say, get off your heels. Put your weight on the front part of your feet to be more athletic. This is the one exception. If a catcher recognizes that a collision is coming, he has to, or should try to at least, take his weight and go back onto his heels. Now, that accomplishes a couple things. First of all, it gets your head back a little bit. If my weight is on the front part of my feet and I'm athletic, my head is leaning forward a little bit. Now, I don't want my head to be the first thing that runner comes to contact with. So if I come back on my heel slightly, it moves my head back, okay? And then probably the first thing the runner is going to contact is my glove or my chest protector, but it's not going to be my face. The next reason why we go back in our heel, as we'll see for the next step, our first movement should be back, actually down and back when contact is made. So going back on our heels is going to automatically put us in a safer position to protect our face and also get ready for step number 2 on a collision. Okay, the next step here to a collision after we've kind of leaned back and put more weight on our heels is, it involves some physics here now, or some engineering. You may know that if two cars, or if a car hits head-on to something, if there's a head-on collision with a car or a wall or something like that, one of the concerns is that all that metal in the engine is right in front of the driver and the passenger who's in the car. The engineers who make the cars don't want, for safety reasons, they don't want on a head-on collision for the engine to come straight back into the driver's compartment, because that's not going to be good for the driver or the passenger. So they purposely engineer cars that if there is a head-on collision, the engine in the car immediately drops to the ground. They do that on purpose, and that's to make sure the engine doesn't come back into the driver on a head-on collision. You're going to take that same exact engineering and you're going to apply it to your body if you are a catcher on a collision. Now, this is also another reason why it's good to lean back on your heels, because it makes that process of dropping on contact a lot easier. It's harder to do if my weight is leaning forward. It's easier to do if my weight is slightly back on my heels. So here's what it's going to look like. And I won't get on the ground like a catcher if he's hit, but I'll explain it to you. If I step back here, I recognize that that guy's coming after me. I say, uh-oh. I lean back on my heels a little bit. And as soon as contact is made, if he drops his shoulder and he comes in, and as soon as contact is made, I want to drop my rear end and go on my back. Okay, again, I don't want to take the hit. I want to drop and go back on my back. So drop and go back. Now what that's going to do is, if I am lower than the runner, and the runner's coming in this way, as soon as he makes contact, if I drop, he is going to go over top of me. I'm going to roll back, and I'm going to deflect his energy. If I stand tall and he comes at me, I get all the energy, and he's going to knock me into tomorrow. So if I stay lower than him, and as soon as contact is made, I drop and go back, he's going to go flying over top of me. Now, that doesn't mean I'm always going to be in a safe position. Contact hurts. Any contact can cause an injury. So if I do that, I might still get hurt, but I'm much less likely to get severely injured if immediately upon contact, I drop and go back to my back. He's going to fly over me, and a lot of his energy that he has stored running around third base is going to be deflected over me and not into me. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about in this video is the aftermath of a collision, because oftentimes the catcher is in a good position, he drops and rolls like I explained, and he's safe, everything's fine, nobody's hurt, and then the catcher screws it up with what he does in the very next few seconds. Now, the first thing a catcher should always do, as I mentioned a little bit before, is try to get up as fast as he can, because there may be other runners on base. Okay, so you have to immediately shift your attention, get up, because there may be another play. Now, if you are a catcher and if you are hurt, then obviously nobody's expecting you to just jump right up and make the play. If you're hurt, you're hurt. You may not be able to get up. But if you are, your focus needs to immediately shift to the other runners that are possibly on base. The second thing that involves the aftermath of the play goes back to something I mentioned earlier, and that is the catcher's ego. Now, if you've been around baseball enough, you've probably seen some collisions at home plate. I tell my catchers, I said, I don't care what the runner does. You have to resist that urge to attack the runner. And I've seen catchers do this. Plays at home plate, they get drilled, and they get up, and they want to go after that runner and possibly take a swing. Now, if that runner hits you, chances are good he's going to be ejected, he's going to be suspended. However, if you get up and go after him now because you're angry at what he did, now you're going to be ejected and you're going to be suspended. So you really have to control your emotions after the play. Resist that urge to get up and attack that runner. That's what I talked about before, where immediately your focus needs to be on the other runners who are on base. You have to resist that urge to go after that runner who just slammed into you. The last part of the aftermath involves what a catcher should do. I talked about some things that he should not do in terms of going after the runner and trying to attack him. I talked about staying down on the ground too long and not getting up and looking at other runners. This next one here is something that catchers should do, and that is act as if this is just a routine play. Okay? This is a play if there's a collision at home plate. All eyes are on you. You got all the fans now may have just gone, ooh, and they're wondering if you're okay. Both benches are usually up because of the play at home plate. So the potential for emotions to get out of hand are certainly high. So resist that temptation. But the third thing here is act as if this is just an average thing, that this happens to you all the time. So a great thing to do if you're a catcher, if you are not hurt, after you get hammered, and you hopefully handle it correctly, and you're able to get up, grab your equipment. If it's the third out, roll the ball back to the mound and jog off like nothing happened. I tell you what, you will get so many props from the fans, from your teammates, from the coaches, any scouts who are in the stands, even the other team and the other runner. You will get a lot of respect. If you can take a hit like that properly, get up, and act as if, hey, this happens all the time. It's no big deal. That's a routine play for me. You will actually hurt your credibility if you get up and try to attack the runner. So it can be hard to do, but you want to try to act as if, hey, no big deal. Happens all the time. I'm fine, and I'm not going to let this bother me. It's just baseball. It's just part of being a catcher. You do that, and you're going to get a lot of respect. Okay, so that's going to wrap up this instructional video for catchers involving tag plays and home plate, and especially collisions. So I hope you learned something, but like everything else in the game, you have to practice this stuff. You have to master it, because as I said earlier, the consequences for catchers who do not do these things correctly are pretty darn severe, and it might even be career-ending.